All right, so some time has passed and our instance state is now running. And let's go ahead and select connect to this remote database in the sky that we've just created. And we have the option to download the remote desktop file. And I'm going to do that on Windows. You may need to open it if you're using a different RDP client, but this will automatically open if I click open from Windows once it's downloaded with RDP. And it says don't know the publisher, is that okay? And in this case that's fine. I'm going to tell it connect, and it's asking for our password. So the password for this instance, and I would recommend that you change this once you get logged in. That's up to you. It's SBCC-CIS117. So I'll go ahead and put in SBCC-CIS117 and tell it to connect. And it says the identity of the remote computer cannot be verified. Do you want to trust it? Yes, I do. Okay, and I am now in a window that is my remotely connected database server. Okay, and let's go to the desktop. And on that desktop, I have already created an icon for you, an image of SQL Server Management Studio. So go ahead and open that. That may take a couple moments to load, particularly the first time. This information over here on the right is telling you the host name of the instance that you've created and that you're currently running, and information like its public and private IP addresses and whatnot that might be useful for connecting and doing other things from other platforms. But most of this we're going to do just locally. And so it's brought up my SQL Server Management Studio. I'm going to park my talking head down here in the lower left-hand corner. And it's automatically come up with the server name. It's using Windows authentication and the administrator account to log in. We need to do nothing other than hit connect. And so we are remotely controlling SQL Server Management Studio running on this Windows computer, connecting to a SQL Server database running on that same computer. And we've gotten the connection, and if we come over and explore the databases that are on this system, we see that CIS117DB, Colonial, Salmaris, and TAL, which are these are the sample databases from the book, are already installed, as is CIS117DB. And so if we come up and expand the 117DB database to see the database objects and take a look at the tables that are there, we will see the customers, items, order details, and orders table. And we can check that everything is working by creating a new query. And in that query, we can tell it, let's start out by saying use CIS 117DB. And then let's come down and say select star from customers. And that will give us all the customers in the customer table. And then click on execute. Oh, user. That should be use instead of user. Use CIS117DB. Let's try that again. And there we are. All of our customer data is appearing. We can go ahead and scroll through that. Very nice. So we're good to go. All right. So when you are done with this instance and have done whatever you need to do in your database work, you should go ahead and close the application. I'm not going to save that query. I don't need it. And then the other thing that we should do is make sure from our AWS console that we get this properly shut down. So we can come to start, come over to power, and we're going to actually shut down this instance. All right, and that dropped the connection when it shut down. And then what we should be able to do here is want to make sure, and depending on the settings, shutting the machine down locally may or may not change the instance state. And so if it left it running, and it takes a couple minutes before you'd see it, but if it left it running, we should go ahead, if we're not using it right now, and probably go ahead and tell it to stop that instance. Okay. So what will continue to be billed against my AWS account, my free tier account, against my free hours, is the fact that I still have a 30 megabyte hard drive volume that's being stored in the cloud, but I'm no longer using any CPU. This is all stopped. And so when I want to come back in here, what I would need to do is select my instance and tell it that I want to change the instance state back over to start, wait for it to start up, and then go ahead once it's started and click on connect, just as we did a moment ago. And so that gives you sort of a SQL Server in your pocket in the cloud anytime that you want it, without respect to what operating system you're running locally. So if you're running a Mac, if you're running a Chromebook, or if you are simply running a Windows machine that you don't want to install the or are not able to install the SQL Server software to, you can make use of it in this way. Hope you find that helpful.